This is a confidential report from Rabbi Herbert A. Friedman, Executive Vice Chairman of the nationwide United Jewish Appeal. Rabbi Friedman.
Friends, something terribly important is going on. We cannot publicize it, yet it is vital that you be aware of it. Therefore, I am sending you this record because it is the only way I know to get this information to you quickly. I am referring to the mass exodus of Jews from Poland. There have been, so far, 2 or 3 stories in the public press, and I have asked for permission to make an open publicity campaign so that the entire American public might know that Jews are once again being driven by the lash of open anti-Semitism, and that the communist government of Poland is actually letting Jews leave by the tens of thousands. But the permission for which I have asked has not been granted. The decision has been made in Europe and in Israel that we, the United Jewish Appeal that is, cannot publicize this Polish story. If a reporter for the New York Times, for instance, writes a story from Warsaw saying that Jews are fleeing, and if this story gets past the censor in Poland and actually is printed in New York, that is one thing. But if the UJA starts a full-scale publicity campaign in every paper, on every TV station, on every radio station, that would be another thing. For then there would be a hue and a cry. Voices would be raised and attacks would be made on the Polish government, which could only have one result. The Poles would stop this exodus of Jews overnight. And so our cruel dilemma has been that we have wanted to make publicity and have not been able to do so because we feared that that would jeopardize the rescue of Jews. Obviously, we prefer to rescue, but in order to have the money to do the rescue, we must somehow tell you, the Jews of America, this whole story. The only way to overcome the frustration of being full of information on Poland, yet being unable to use it publicly, is to try to get it to you privately through this medium. And so I am making this recording, which is for your personal use, your family, your friends, so that you may know. But I ask you please to be very careful with this information. It is restricted and confidential, and is not to appear in print, certainly not to appear as coming from us. Before Hitler started burning and killing, the once great Jewish population of Poland consisted of 3.25 million people. Today we estimate that there might be 50 or 60,000 left. For more than a decade, this tiny remnant was locked in behind the Iron Curtain, and we could not get to them, nor could they come to us. Brothers were held asunder, straining toward each other, kept apart by the gulf which separates East from West today. There is something special, I think, about Polish Jewry, for Poland since the 16th century was the source from which so much Jewish knowledge, culture, and religion flowed. Poland was also the source from which so many of our fathers and grandfathers flowed to this American continent. Poland, with its shtetl and its ghetto, its teeming city masses and its tiny village peasants. Poland was a world unto itself, in which Judaism was preserved and practiced with pride and beauty. Our sentimental connections with Polish Jewry are strong, and our intellectual convictions are even stronger, that here is a group of European Jews whom we have wanted to reunite with the rest of the free Jewish world. For years we tried to get at them, and to no avail. Last fall, the Iron Curtain was torn open, and for many complicated political and psychological reasons, it began to be possible for Polish Jews to escape. The communists were letting them out not because they loved the Jews, but because getting rid of them was the way to solve the rising problem of anti-Semitism in Poland. A trickle began in September and October. Then it mounted in volume and crescendo. At first a few, then hundreds, then thousands of exit visas were granted. Jews lined up at the Israel embassy in Warsaw. The processing went quickly. They were even allowed large quantities of baggage. The trains were loaded every day. The volume reached 1,000 persons a week. Whole families left. Professional men and engineers, teachers and factory workers, scientists and a naval architect, a general, a Supreme Court judge, thousands of children. The entire Jewish population saw its chance to get out. Every day we feared that some change in the political climate might disrupt this miracle. Instead, it continued to expand and expand. And today, it has reached truly flood proportions. Today, there are tens of thousands of Polish Jews who have their visas and are waiting impatiently to be rescued. They're afraid of being cut off, even with the precious papers in their hands. And there's a desperate race going on with time. Therefore, some tremendously significant decisions had to be made, and they were reached last week. Arrangements have been made for an airlift from Poland directly to Israel by El Al airplanes. Do you realize the full meaning of this? This represents a revolutionary step. Israeli planes actually touching down on Polish soil and then turning around and flying Jews out directly to Tel Aviv. I'm not certain of this, but I would guess that it represents the first time that anything like this has ever happened behind the Iron Curtain. And as though this were not startling enough, there is the additional arrangement which has been completed of Polish planes ferrying out Jewish immigrants via Zurich in Switzerland. Polish planes, I tell you, with Polish pilots carrying Jews out to freedom and safety in Israel. This is a fantastic thing. This airlift is really a miracle. But I want you to know that no matter how well the airlift works, it will not be enough. And not only is the air being used, but the sea also. And here is something else which I would like to share with you. For the first time, a chartered ship flying the British flag arrived in the Polish harbor of Stettin on April 4th to take on 1,000 Jews, bring them to France, where they will be transshipped to Israel via Marseille. This British liner of mercy, chartered by us, will not sail only once, but will make 3 trips in April, carrying a full load each time. Here, then, is an open policy of immigration, with 3 escape hatches from Poland, by train to Vienna, by plane directly to Israel, and by boat to France, which will bring out 8,000 Jews from Poland alone in the month of April alone. And this is not to speak of other Jews from other countries, with more in May and still more in June, until this whole population is rescued, and we will then sing for joy. Friends, our joy is tempered by one thing. Rescue costs money, enormous quantities of it. There isn't enough. I tell you, there isn't anywhere near enough. The campaigns are going well, but the costs keep mounting as more people come out. It is tragic, but true, that thousands must be kept waiting in camps and staging areas in Europe because of a shortage of money. The escape from Poland takes place, and this cannot be delayed because we are afraid that the door might close. But then the next step of transportation to Israel is sometimes delayed because there is no money to charter that extra vessel needed. in Israel, they're going on a night shift in a desperate effort to rush the building of the one-room housing units which these people are getting. But even so, working at night and under the floodlights, there still will be thousands of units short as the flood of immigration continues. It is clear to me that before the end of April is reached, there will once again be tent encampments dotting the countryside of Israel. In our happiness at being able to rescue Polish Jewry, we should soberly evaluate the role we must play. The people in Israel are willing to do everything, share their food, share their jobs, share their schools. We also must be willing to do everything so that we can say we have an honest part in this rescue operation. How proud we and our children will be if we do this right. How ignoble, I'm sure, we will feel if we do not measure up. Let me appeal to you directly. Have you given enough in the light of what I've told you? Can you give more? It costs about $1,000 to rescue one person to save one life. Can you save one life, or 2, or 10 more lives? Is there something more you can do in your community, or your business group, or your social circle to make your campaign more successful? Can you ask others to give more in addition to what you do yourself? Look, I said at the beginning that we were frustrated as to how to get this story to you, and so decided to make this recording. Will you please play this for other people carefully, and let me know via the enclosed postcard which we are sending you with the record that you have played it for others and that you have tried to help get this story across? I have great faith and confidence in the Jews of America. You have always understood and have always responded. Now that you know the Polish story, in all of its details and all of its great drama, please do everything humanly possible by gifts of your money and your time to your local campaign to keep the rescue planes and ships constantly moving. In Israel, I tell you, they will do more than is humanly possible to keep the doors open. They will not be deterred by Nasser or by war, by indecision of the UN or by threats of any government. They will not be deterred from the holy mission of giving haven and refuge. And I ask that we not be deterred by any lack of understanding on our part or by any awkward hesitation in the monies we must make available. I'm speaking to you at the time of the Passover season, when we think of the exodus of Jews in ancient days from slavery into freedom. In modern days, this exodus is occurring for more than 100,000 of our brothers. I have been talking about Polish Jews because that is the part we have not been able to publish, and I repeat my warning, by the way, that we must be careful that none of this gets into print. But even as we talk about Polish Jews, let us not forget the others. The Egyptians, the Hungarians, the North Africans, all of whom are also fleeing by the thousands each month. In the years to come, the Jews whom we rescue, whether they be Polish or Egyptian or Hungarian, will thank us in the only way they can, by building an ever stronger Israel, of which we and our children, if we do our part, shall be immeasurably proud.